Hello. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm so happy to be here. I just love this group so much, and I love joining you guys. I just realized I don't have my phone. I love joining you guys like this every week. It makes me so happy. I love this community. I love this group so much. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm always happy to be here. I feel like I start my lives the same every week, but it's because that's how I feel. So thank you for being part of this group. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for joining me live. If you're here, say hi, let me know that you're here so that I can say hi back. And bear with me, I am recovering from some allergies from leftover from last week, and my voice is not 100%. So you may hear me clearing my throat, you may hear me eating a cough drop, you will definitely see me drinking some tea and water to keep my throat from being dry. So bear with me. And yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So what are we talking about today? Today's topic is about mindset. Mindset's one of my favorite things to do, to think about, to look at, to talk about. It's the thing that I could geek out pretty much all day. And I love how when you are a heart-centered entrepreneur, or if you have a creative career, I actually love and geek out about the fact that mindset stuff pops up there so much. It's a beautiful playground and a beautiful space to learn more about ourselves and to grow more deeply, more oftentimes more quickly, because running a business or having a creative career really pulls these things up for us to look at in ways that I think other aspects of life don't give us that opportunity. So all right, if you're here, say hi, and I'm just gonna double check. So what are we talking about today? It's mindset, but I'm talking about a particular mindset topic really, or an energy or mindset shift that you can make is the title of today. What the mindset shift that you can make to truly thrive at all levels of your business. And I'm gonna break apart what I mean by that very long title, because thriving is really important part of that sentence. All levels of your business is a very important part of that sentence, in addition to just making a mindset shift. So we're going to talk about all of those things today. And I'm just coming to pull up your comments so that I can see you. There we are. Okay. So how can you truly thrive in your business? I think that's what a lot of people are searching for. I think that's what a lot of us are here to do. While on the one hand, I think those of us, and I want to just preface this by saying people in this group and the people who I'm speaking to and the people who I work with I call you heart-centered entrepreneurs. You can call yourself whatever you want. Purpose-driven, mission-driven, purposeful, conscious. And I speak to those of you who are creatives as well. I have artists and actors and screenwriters in my book of clients as well. I don't just work with entrepreneurs. I think the two are very similar. But when we are heart-centered, when we're doing work that is meaningful to us. And oftentimes I like to argue that like the work that you're putting out into the world is something that only you can do. When we have a career or we're running a business that's that deeply personal and specific to us and our gifts and talents, I think there are two reasons that most people start these types of businesses or careers. And I think most people have both. Tell me if you disagree, but I think most people in this ballpark, assuming that you love the work that you do, et cetera, you start this business or this career, you get into this career because you want to make some sort of impact on the world. You want to help people in some way. You want to create something, you want to do something, right? There's a desire to help and to impact and to change the world. Or your corner of the world. And then I think the other reason that most of us start a business as well is because we want to feel fulfilled by that work. Or we believe that we will feel fulfilled by having that impact on the world, by putting out that piece of art, or by creating something that comes completely from ourselves, or in combination with other people, depending on your business. So if we're looking at it from both perspectives, thriving means that you are both making the impact on the world that you want, that you intended to, and that you are receiving back something in exchange besides just money, but money, yes. But thriving is not just about financials. Thriving is, and that's why I put in the title, thriving at all levels of your business. And again, this is a pie in the sky, something to achieve. There are always things in your business that are going to have to change. This isn't about being perfect, okay? But if you're thriving and the different various components of your business are thriving, the idea, the assumption is that means that you're getting something back in return. Meaning it's a meaningful work for you. You're enjoying the business part of it, not just the work part of it. So for example, I'm a coach and I serve my clients one-on-one primarily. If I only wanted to serve clients and I hated the marketing and all the back end stuff, and I hated having to deal with a team, or I hated setting up systems and processes, or any version of that, if I didn't enjoy the back end part of my business, I'd be probably not thriving at certain levels, because all I really want to do is just work with my clients and I don't care about the rest, right? I'm being really dramatic in my description here, right? That's not to say that, there are definitely some things that I don't enjoy doing that my team handles for me, right? But I'm doing them by taking the action to bring on a team member to support me in that, if that makes sense. And I'm not bringing on, and the other end of that extreme is like, I'm not bringing on somebody onto my team because I hate something and I just don't want to deal with it. La, 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 la. Can you just do it? Right? Because ultimately you do need to be involved in all aspects of your business, even if it's just checking in with the person that is running that piece of your work. Okay. So again, the assumption is that thriving means both are happening. I'm making the impact on the world externally, and then internally, personally, and internal to my business, we are thriving at that level as well. Okay. So that's what I mean by thriving. So what's the mindset shift you can make? I'm just going to double check the comments here before I keep going. So what's the mindset shift that you can make? And the topic for today, the mindset shift you can make to truly thrive at all areas of your business. And I gave you a little bit of a hint in the topic with thrive. It's coming out of survival mode. And I want to define what I mean by that in a minute, but what I see so often is the energy of survival mode playing out in multiple levels in people's businesses, in their lives, in their careers, in their schedules, in their mindset, in the way that they treat themselves. Survival mode energy, again, I'm going to define it here in a minute. But I believe what I've seen, and I've seen this in the corporate clients that I used to have back in the day, and I had 18 years of consulting experience and also job changing experience in my 18 years of corporate career. So I've seen behind the scenes of a lot of big businesses, a lot of medium-sized businesses, and now in this business, smaller and solopreneur businesses. So I see this in my clients. I see this in myself. I've seen this throughout my entire career. I've seen it in the adults that I looked at working in the world growing up. Survival mode energy is rampant. It's in a lot of places. And I'm not trying to say that, again, we need to be purely perfectionists and if we're thriving, that means everything's perfect. But the awareness of survival energy in your business is most likely sneakily affecting you and your work and your behind the scenes and your mindset. And so that's where I want to just shed some light on this concept and give you some examples of the ways that I see this playing out so that you can try to find where in your business, and this is the question I want to ask everyone, where in your business is survival mode energy playing out? Where in your business is survival mode playing out? Because it may or may not be in your finances. And that's the place where I think a lot of people go to first. But it plays out so often. And when I really stopped to think about it, and I think I even said in my post when I was describing what today's live was going to be, I said, this is quickly becoming my favorite topic because it's something that I've seen in my clients for quite a while. I've seen in myself as I run my own business, there are moments where you kind of this like survival mode, you know, it's not even fight or flight, but the survival mode energy kicks in. And it's oftentimes in a place where you don't see it. And so not being able to see it, not being able to call it for what it is, you can't make a change about it, right? You can't, that which you are not aware of, you cannot make a change about, right? So that's what I'm trying to shed light on, is to just show you where and how I've seen this energy play out in different areas, and to try to get you to see it differently in your own lives and your own businesses so that you can then make a change around it. Okay. Let's see. Just checking. Okay. So the first thing I want to say, how am I defining survival mode energy? Because everybody uses terms that mean something to them. So for me, survival mode, and I want to start off by saying, I think survival mode plays out for most of us financially when we start a business. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about today, but I am going to talk about it to give you some context, to give you something to resonate with, to understand what it is that I'm talking about. But I'm not actually talking about financial survival. Okay. And I think that's actually, like, when I say survival mode, that's where a lot of people think about it in their own business. And for sure, it's the thing that when we have a problem with financial stuff, we know it because we're stressed out about it. Right. But that's not where I actually see it playing out, and everywhere else is where it plays out in a sneaky way. That's what today's topic is about. Enough disclaimers, Laura. So when most people I know who started a creative career or a heart-centered business had money worry in the beginning. It's just natural, okay? So the beauty of running a business that's virtual or online is that there's not a lot of startup costs, right? If you open up a McDonald's franchise, you have to pay a certain ton of money to open up that franchise, to create the investment, right? Maybe you need to take out a loan, et cetera. But a lot of people start online businesses with basically no capital or minimal capital because you don't need a ton of startup costs. So relatively speaking. So I know a lot of people, when you start a business, money is a worry, money is a consideration. Can this be more than a hobby per the IRS? Can this be financially sustainable? Will it support me? Do I have to get a side gig? All these things, right? Again, that's not what we're talking about, but obviously you can tap into, what does it feel like to be needing to survive financially? Or if you've ever had a period in your life where you were not making enough money or as much money as you wanted to be, and you were worried about, maybe like you were living paycheck to paycheck. I've done that myself, living paycheck to paycheck, getting a second job on top of your 9-to-5, for example, to make ends meet, those types of things. That's a financial space, survival mode energy, right? There's this like, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know if this is going to work, right? Other ways that I like to describe survival mode energy is that it's graspy, right? There's this element of like, I got to hold on to this last penny because there's no more money ever to, right? There's this almost like this idea that there's no more money ever to be made, right? So I'm going to freak out. Graspy, attached, controlling oftentimes. And again, it's so easy to see this in financial. It's not what we're talking about today, but I want to use the money as an example. Fear, survival mode is fear. It's funny, I'm a little behind the times. I just got access to, or just opened up an account on Apple TV Plus. And because I had to get a VPN because I don't live in the United States, et cetera. Anyway, I just linked that all up, and I've been binge watching The Morning Show which I'm just adoring. So much of the social commentary, and it's reminded me, I'm having a lot of thoughts and a lot of reliving a lot of dynamics of things that happened in my corporate career that I could see mirrored in this morning show experience. Let me know if you're a fan of the show. Where was I going with this? Oh, and so much of what's happening at the beginning of the show, because of some big thing that had happened to one of the people get fired, and one of the primary heads, one of the most important people on the show gets fired. And it's fascinating to feel that survival mode energy of these people who have been in the TV business for years and years and years. They are veterans, they are icons, they are celebrities, they are making millions of dollars, right? So this is really my point today. Survival mode energy is not about finances, even if we want to think that it is, because these people can put money on their plate, food on their kids' plates forever. They've got multiple houses. They're fine. If they could never work again, they could probably figure out a way to make their money stretch, right? And yet the graspy, needy energy with which these characters spend the majority of their time in this first season trying to hold on to their jobs, right? That survival mode energy playing out, it plays out in corporate all over the place. How many times, if you've been in corporate, did you have an experience with someone where you realized like the only reason they were doing what they did, whether it was honest, dishonest, in the company's best interest or not, was because they were trying to hold on to their job, or trying to hold on to their power, or trying to gain more power, or trying to gain more money, right? Like, again, these are the obvious ways that it plays out. I want to talk about the sneaky ways. Couple other pieces I want to talk about with survival mode. A lot of times it's rushing energy. To me, like when you're rushing to get somewhere or rushing to get something done. When I was in corporate and I had a big deadline, I was constantly rushing. Oh my God, I'm not sure I'm going to make it, right? I'm not sure I'm going to survive the deadline. Am I going to get all my stuff done? Is it going to be any good while I'm rushing to get this done? So a lot of rushing, time constraint can create survival mode energy in your business. Worrying, hustle energy, stress, desperation, right? Have you ever been on a sales call and said to yourself, oh God, I really need this client. I really need a new client. That's survival mode energy, right? So all of these things, this is how I look at survival mode energy. Where does it come from? It comes from a lot of places. It comes a lot from society. It comes oftentimes too from, which is also society, but like the environment that we grow up in, whether we had money or not, what was the vibe in the house around money? Whether you had enough time to do everything or not, what was the vibe in the house around scheduling, around how things get done, around having free time? Is free time valued? Is vacation time valued? Is that determined to be important, or are you lazy if you take vacation? I had a client ask me this week if they were being lazy if they worked, I think 15 hours, right? So that, and then this is not to diminish my client, she's speaking of and reflecting a dynamic in our culture whereby we think that the number of hours we work equals our value. Oftentimes, okay. What else did I want to say that? 1 second, let me just check my notes here. Oh, and then other places that it plays out, right? So back to family, how did your family growing up make sense of, perceive, and value things like work, hard work, your schoolwork, busyness in general? Were they running high all the time, or was there space and time for rest and relaxation and vacation and chill and unscheduled time, right? Like, how did that work in your family, right? What dynamics played out there around work and schedules and free time and busyness that might also be still playing out in your business, because the fish doesn't know he swims in water, right? That's one of my favorite sayings. I think it's Einstein, but a fish doesn't know it swims in water. So what we're doing when we build awareness around our mindset, we build awareness around what's happening in our businesses, we start to actually be able to look at the water from a fresh perspective and to understand what water we're swimming in. And then a lot of people have been alluding to this all over the place because I spent a lot of time in corporate. And the way that work got done for me, the way work got done is I was always rushed. I always felt like I had too much work to do. I was always trying to just get something done so that I can move on to the next thing and not feel behind. I felt behind pretty much all the time. Not everybody feels that way, but I did. And there's 97 reasons for that, many of which I can't blame my corporate career for. But again, what is happening on the inside of your brain? What's happening to you? How are you making sense of this situation? And that's really going to determine your stress and whether you're in survival mode, right? Because this isn't fight or flight, but it's sort of related to that concept of the primitive brain that we all have that wants to keep us safe, right? And if we are operating in survival mode in some way in our business, and we're not allowed to take a breath, we're not able to find space and peace and some sense of comfort or safety in that area of our business, we're going to be not thriving, right? We're going to be surviving, or we're going to be somewhere in the middle. Okay, let me just check. Okay, great. Oops, let me get back to our comments here. Okay, so back to survival mode. And again, what are the things that I want to point out? Because I think it's important, actually. Let's just take a quick tangent. It's important, I think, to understand, at least for the purpose of the rest of this conversation, but it's important in your business anyway, to understand what sort of phase your business is in. I think a lot of times people they sort of are so used to being in the phase before where they actually are, that they're so used to being in that phase that they sometimes take a minute to realize what phase they're actually in. And that phase the prior phase comes with maybe survival mode energy in a space that you don't actually need to worry about anymore. So let me give you a couple examples. So the way that I look at the phases of business, from starting a business to what I guess would be considered thriving. These are just my words. But I think there's like a building and growth phase. And these oftentimes are linear, 1, then 2, then 3 at the beginning. But then at any given time, I think you could argue that when you hit a transition phase in your business, you might be at any one of these points. So bear with me on this sort of Livingston's model here, which is this model in my head is based on so many other people's models over the years of reading books on business, reading books on organization, reading books on human behavior, reading books on all kinds of things, right? So I've been sort of a sponge my entire life around business and change. So bear with me on this, but this is sort of my loose model. Phase 1, building and growing, right? Okay, I need a website. I'm starting a business. Let me get some clientele. Let me reach out and see if I can make some money here, right? Some of those initial phase things, right? Which if we go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you don't know about it, look it up. It's really, really helpful to think about this concept around, well, basically the idea is that we need to fill our basic needs first: food, water, clothing, shelter, before we can do things like advance emotionally and work on our mindset and not that you can't be poor and become a better person, right? But the idea is that, and it follows the chakras, but the idea is that to continue to advance as a soul, you first need to take care of your basic needs so that survival mode piece is calmed, and you can then move into looking at other, worrying about other things in your growth as a soul, as a person. Okay, so that building phase in your business really is taking care of your basic needs, getting a decent foundation set. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it comes in a triangle, right? The foundation is that bottom level of the triangle upon which every other layer is built. When you're in that phase, again, it's so easy to see how survival mode plays out there and how it can be stressful. Financially and otherwise. That's not what I want to talk about today. I actually want to talk about how it plays out in these other phases of business. So let's go. Okay, we started a business. We've built a solid foundation. Now, upon this foundation, we are going to grow and scale in income, in impact, in our following, in our ability to collaborate and partner with other businesses, organizations, whatever, right? So there's, in many cases, after we have a solid foundation, we then focus on additional growth, layering on top, building on that foundation that we've already created, right? If you're building a house, you pour the foundation first, and then you build the first floor and the second floor. Same with business, okay? So we're assuming that you already have your foundation in the second phase, and you're looking to scale money, financially, you're looking to grow your income, you're looking to grow your impact, et cetera. And then there's another phase that I like to call sustaining. I stole this from back when I used to do consulting. I used to work for a big 5 consulting firm, and there's this concept, it's not even related to, where did this model even come from? You want to, as you make a change in your business, or if you create a project to work on in an organization, you come up with the idea, you plan it out. How are you going to implement this? You implement it. And then there's this sustain piece of the process, which is, okay, great. The consultants need to work themselves out of a job and teach the people in the organization how to keep this process going forward, right? Sustaining in your business is just continuing, let's say your goal is 10K months. Okay, so you're moving from 5K months, I'm making this up. You're moving from 5K months to 10K months. Maybe that's your scaling phase. And then maybe you hit 10K months and you're like, I'm so great with this right now. I just want to keep doing this. And yeah, I'm happy if I make more money, but I have different things that I want to do and create that keeps me in this sustainable space. But growing and scaling isn't necessarily my goal right now. I like my numbers of people on my team. I like the numbers of clients that I have. What I've built is sustainable, and I can just keep repeating it over time, and it will continue to bring in 10K plus. And so I'm going to just stay with that while, either doing nothing new because I want to take a break, or by doing something else new that just sort of keeps me in a creative space, right? That's where you're not as focused on growing the dollars, but maybe you're focused on sustainability. Make sense? So if phase 1 is building and a solid foundation, phase 2 is scaling from that solid foundation, and phase 3, right? And again, these aren't really linear. They kind of are. And then when you start a business, and then after that, I could argue I've gone back and forth between scaling and sustaining for quite a while now. And it just depends on what's going on with me, what's going on with my team, what's going on in terms of what I want to do as a business owner. I don't always want to make more money. Yes, it's a bonus, but I have other things that are important to me to achieve and accomplish and in this business. And I believe that the money just kind of takes care of itself when you pursue the right thing for your business. So anyway, what I find very, very often is that people take that survival mode energy from phase 1, from the build phase, and they let it linger into future phases, and they don't always realize it. I have had my own experience with this. I've noticed it in myself. I've noticed it in my clients. It's just a thing that happens, right? So where in your business is survival mode playing out? And I'm speaking to those of you who have the bottom part of the triangle filled out, how are in a sustaining or a scaling place, which means that you've got a foundation of some sort set for your business. Where is it playing out in your business? What have you carried over from the getting started startup phase of your business that's still playing out? And I want to give you a few examples because I find that this is where it gets the sneakiest. Okay, so there's a million different places it can play out. I'm going to just share a few examples of things that I've seen, and maybe this will spark some ideas for you. Where is survival mode energy playing out in your calendar? This one gets a lot of people. Where is survival mode energy playing out in your calendar, in your schedule, in the way that you plan out your day, your week? Are you a slave to your schedule? Are you intentionally taking on, if you're a client services, for example, are you intentionally setting up an agreement and an intention with yourself around how many clients are ideal for you to serve in any given week? Or are you just taking everybody that you can and then freaking figuring out how to build it into your schedule? That's survival mode energy at some level, right? Something in there, in that decision as a business owner, whether you realize, and again, these are oftentimes decisions people have made that they don't realize they've made. And it comes from, oh, I don't have enough clients to fill up my calendar. So it really doesn't matter what a full calendar for me feels like. It doesn't matter to me in the beginning to set a maximum number of clients because I don't even have enough. I only have one or I only have two. So like the idea of setting a max and like building my schedule to make sure that I have enough space for me isn't really a concept, isn't really a relevant concept at that build phase, right? But then once you get to a full book of clients, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What is actually ideal for you when you think about all the other parts of your life? How many hours do you want to work? Because what you build, you have to sustain, right? Because this is all also built on the idea, this is all based on the idea that what you want to create in your business is something that's sustainable, that you can keep doing without wearing yourself out, right? So, for example, in your schedule, what can you be more intentional about? Where can you stop the survival mode energy of taking on too many clients in one particular week? I have a client who used to set up, the scheduling systems. Everybody's got their own different system that they like, but she had her scheduling system set for like, I don't know, something like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And somebody could book something the way that her settings were set. Somebody could book something in the morning for that afternoon. So maybe she has like 3, especially in the beginning of your business, right? So maybe you have, let's use this example. Maybe you've got like 3 to 5 calls, whether they're discovery calls or client calls per week. But you've opened your whole calendar up to 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. What was happening with this client of mine was she was having to be energetically open and available to work all of those hours, even though she didn't have enough clients to fill those hours. And so she found herself not being able to go buy groceries or do her personal appointments unless she knew about them and had blocked them off her calendar, because she was being so open to anybody booking on her calendar, and she didn't feel that she had enough people on her calendar. And so the idea of like closing down part of her calendar and streamlining her time and saying like, I'm only available every morning, or I'm only available 3 days a week, 9 to 5, or whatever it may be, felt really scary, because it was like, wait, I don't have enough clients. Who am I? Well, I have to be open, right? That's this idea that like my business doesn't have the foundation yet. I have to work 60 hours a week until it does. But the problem is when you build your business like that, then you have to sustain it that way, right? So where can you find, scheduling is a big one. Where in your schedule is survival mode energy playing out, and how can you adjust your schedule and your calendar to work for you so that you get taken care of first And then your business, your clients, your customers, your product creation, whatever it is that you do for your business gets taken care of as well. And then you already have balance, work life. For me, I need work-life balance, but I also need balance between client-facing hours and working in my business. I need to find that right. And I don't mean 50-50, but I need to find the right balance for me, because if I'm working in my business too much, it'll be too much for me. If I see too many clients, I don't have the time to do the stuff that I want to do behind the scenes. So finding that right balance, it's always an adjustment. And I just added somebody else new to my team. As I keep adding new people to my team, that balance adjusts and flexes, right? So where in your calendar can you take care of some of that survival mode energy? Okay, that's another good example. Talk about team. Where in the area of support are you operating in survival mode? Let me say that differently. How is survival mode playing out in terms of support in your business? Are you trying to do it all by yourself? Most businesses I know, I hate to make generalizations, but I'm gonna. Most businesses I know need additional support in order to scale. Maybe you do the build phase on your own, but I don't even necessarily think that you have to, but some people financially, that's the decision they've invested from a time perspective, not from a money perspective. Totally fine. None of this is judgment. This is about thriving. So assuming you have a foundation or you're pretty done with your foundation, bringing on a team member is one really beautiful way to accelerate your growth, accelerate your ability to scale, because you're bringing on experts, right? I don't know any entrepreneur, to be honest with you, even people who teach how to run a business, even other business coaches. I don't know anybody who's really good at all aspects of running a business. And really enjoys all aspects of running a business. And if you're the business owner and you are creating a product or you are providing a service, in order to scale, you have to be out there selling and marketing and serving, and you need support to help with the back end. It's just how it works. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. And I've done a couple of lives around bringing on support and hiring team. If you have a question about that, let me know and I'd be happy to specifically address that or create another live for that. But where is survival mode playing out in your team or lack thereof, right? Again, this goes back to knowing what phase you are in your business and acting as such. Letting yourself let go of the worry of money if you've been making good money for over a year, right? Like, how can you bring yourself into reality and remove or adjust the survival mode energy that's playing out in sneaky ways? So we talked about finances, we talked about calendar. Now we're talking about sport. Do you have enough people on your team? Or are you utilizing your team enough to the point that they are supporting you enough? And this isn't about saying like you have a team member that doesn't support you in the way that you want. That's a different conversation. This is about, are you letting go of the tasks that don't need to be yours? Are there areas where you could delegate more and free yourself up to less stress, less worry, and or more time to do the stuff that you really want to do, more time to create something, more time to put for me, I want to free myself up to be able to do more social, because I do my own copy, to do more social media copy. So my team can take the rest of that and get it going. My team does the rest of my marketing for me. So what can you delegate more of? And then what does that free you up for? Do you want to delegate more so you can spend more time with your family? Do you want to delegate more? For me, I want to delegate more so I can spend more time serving clients. And then when I'm in my business, it's writing copy and recording lives like this. Where are you trying to do it all yourself, right? That's survival mode energy. There is a time and a place for doing it yourself, absolutely. But when you allow that to go for longer than what matches where your business is now, and again, being aware of where your business is now is critically important to this conversation, and I think to running a business in general. But where are you letting that? It's like an old boyfriend, or it's like a dating relationship that you've been together for so long, but really it's been time for quite some time for you to move on and be with someone else or to be on your own, right? It's sort of like, where are you expiring that I need to do it myself-ness? And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, right? I know a lot of people are like me. I grew up fiercely independent, and that's one of the reasons why I've been a successful human. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start my own business and work for myself after 18 years of working for other people. And it's one of my greatest gifts. And it can also easily be my like Shakespearean fatal flaw, because just because I can do it by myself doesn't mean that in a certain circumstance, particularly in my business, that I need to or should be doing it all by myself. And that's where it's important for me to lean on my team. That's where it's important for me to bring on the right people to support me in the right areas, in the right seats, right butts in the right seats, et cetera, right? So where are you trying to do it all by yourself? That's survival mode energy too, guys. And that is rampant across a lot of entrepreneurs. Like I said, because I know it so well from my own self and my own life experience, I can spot that shit a mile away in you. And it is everywhere. So it's not about being wrong. It's just about being aware of it. And for me, my independence, it's about finding a space for it to allow me to thrive without getting in my own way. Okay. So we've talked about survival mode energy financially. We've talked about it in your calendar. We've talked about it in your team and your support system, right? And that can also equal other people that are your support system in your life, right? Can you see how this conversation permeates into your life as well? And then when it comes to the work that's getting done, are you trying to do too many things at once? That's survival mode energy too. Survival mode energy with doing too many things at once is sort of based on this idea. Everybody looks at it differently. I think everybody's survival mode comes from different things, but it kind of boils down to, well, I'm not good enough, so I have to do all these things, or my business isn't good enough, so I have to do all these things, or I want to scale this business so bad that I'm going to do 900 things and just do it all at once, and like it's just going to happen, right? Like that's a different energy. That's still, there's nothing wrong with working a lot of hours. There's nothing wrong with working hard. I don't think there's nothing wrong with like putting your all into something. I think there's phases and chapters in life where we want to work a lot, where we don't want to work at all, everything in between, right? But being really intentional about that, there's hustle energy and like desperation, clingy attachment, I'm not good enough, proving energy in your survival mode way of doing it, right? When you're doing all the things versus like, I really want to do these things because I'm really excited and inspired around them. And I'm going to strategically plan them out and do one at a time, two at a time, three at a time, whatever makes the most sense for you, given the amount of support you have, given the amount of time you have. My shirt's been doing this all day. But intentionally and strategically, those are the two words I want to bring you to, right? To split screen and counteract this survival mode energy. There's thriving, there's intentionality, there's strategic planning around, I want to scale this business. I have the time to put in the hours now. I'm going to do all these things. That's great. And can you see the difference in the energy of that versus the grasping energy, right? And again, just like anything with mindset work, it's all in here anyway, right? Just people like to think that people who make millions and millions of dollars aren't stressed out because they have the money they need. And that's just simply not true. I know a lot of people that look at their finances from a millionaire perspective and think they don't have enough. It's all in your mind. So, and mindset is what creates stress, which is what creates this survival mode energy, right? Or sorry, which is this survival mode energy. The survival mode energy also causes stress. So when we're looking at where is survival mode energy playing out in our business, what you're doing in your business and how you're getting the work done is another area that you can look at to say what feels like survival mode. And another way that you can ask this question of yourself is just, what's the area of my business that brings on the most stress? Most likely you're applying some element of survival mode energy to it because it's stressing you out. Not always. For sure, that area probably has some mindset stuff that you can work on. But it also may just come down to changing the ways and the structures of what you've got in place to support where you are now. And that's the other thing I just want to remind everybody. The nature of business, if you're growing and scaling and evolving and changing over time, let me just grab some tea. The nature of business is this expansion and contraction, is this growth and then plateau and next steps and creating something new or adding something or bringing someone else on. Like there's always something changing. I lost my train of thought. This happened to me last week. What was I wanting to say? Hold on. And at any given point, you're always in some way kind of catching up to where you actually are now, because so much changes over time and evolves over time that it is important to know where you are, to know what's actually happening right now, right? That's why a lot of times I'll have a client go back and bring me their financials, not because I need to look at their financials, or have them look at them themselves, because oftentimes we don't even realize how much money we're making or where that money is going. Or we get into a habit of something happening, and then when that thing doesn't happen anymore, like I'm used to not having enough clients, and then when you do have enough clients, it's like you have to take a minute or a few months or a year to get adjusted to the fact that you're fully booked. So I think that's really important. And then the other piece is, most people don't start a business and set it up for 5 years in the future, right? Like most people don't invest in a $20,000 website when they're getting started, right? Or a team of 7, right? Like most people in this online space, you have to set up your business for what you have now. And that's appropriate. And then I do like to encourage my clients when they're looking at systems and processes to set things up that support you now and help you scale. Okay. So for example, somebody who does client services work, maybe they only have a few clients. I encourage them to go ahead and set up a calendaring system, because they're going to need that in about 5 minutes when they can't track all their clients, right? Or to have some sort of CRM or spreadsheet to track client discovery calls and the types of people that you're meeting, so that you know who to follow up with and add to your email list, blah, 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 right? If you aren't, and this is just a basic like build phase recommendation, but it is a good idea. This is an example of setting yourself up for the now and for the next step or two. But you can't always do that. It's just that's not sustainable. So part of what I want to encourage you to notice when you're noticing what phase that you're in business is, and when you're looking for where in here am I in survival mode, sometimes it's simply because your systems or your processes or your practices or your mindset haven't caught up to where you actually are. And so sometimes the answer, and that's what I want to get to in these last 10 minutes, like, so what do you do with this when you find survival mode energy in your business, right? And sometimes it's obvious. Oh, my calendar's too open or whatever it is. But the idea as you grow and scale, as you evolve over time, is that you do have to make these adjustments. You do have to sort of audit your business at a moment and go, whoa, what's out of date now? What doesn't serve? Because sometimes the thing that you can do is some sort of action, some sort of new structure, some sort of new practice, process, a system, a new team member. Sometimes it's a really I know we're talking about mindset here, but you can't have a mindset shift without the action piece. And sometimes they go so deeply hand in hand. Sometimes all you have to do is notice it and then take a new action around it to create what it is that you do want. So what do you do? Okay. Mindset work always starts with having the awareness. That's mainly the purpose of today's live. I can't do mindset work with you because we're not working one-on-one in this environment. But the first step to any change, the first step to any mindset work is to have awareness of what's actually happening. So hopefully watching today, you found some areas or an area or something that, oh, you know what? Yeah, I used to be in survival mode around this, but I'm not anymore. So what can I do to shift my mindset, or what practices, structures, processes can I put into place that will help me get back into thriving? So step one, awareness. Step two, it may simply be taking a new action. Do not underestimate the impact of an action. And this is an intentional action. This is an inspired action. This is an action that you're taking in direct response to something that you intentionally know you want to change in your business. It's so beautiful to see. I can't tell you how many times I work with a client and we change their schedule and the way that they build their whole weekly schedule out. And that can seem so, on the surface or from afar, that can seem so boring, so not sexy, so uninteresting. Really, I hired a business coach to help me change my schedule. Yeah, you did. And it's going to change your fucking life. Right. And that's not to say that that's the only thing I do with my clients, but my point is, you can take an action that seems so boring and it can make a huge ripple effect in your business, in your daily life, in the way that you remove stress from your business, in the way that you shift out of survival mode. Do not underestimate the power of a seemingly small action. I say this a lot. So find an action that you can take that makes sense around this. And if you can't, it probably just means that the awareness isn't enough. You need the awareness, and then you need to do some mindset work around it. And then maybe you can take some aligned action once you do some real work in this mindset area, right? Maybe you really have something deeper underneath the surface, that it's not just, oh yeah, I was in the habit of that and now we're here, we need to change our systems, right? But maybe you're in survival mode because, like me in corporate, I just was used to working all the time and always being behind. And so sometimes I will feel, oh my gosh, I have to get that done, I'm behind. And I will actually have to go back to my to-do list and back to my calendar to prove to myself, to remind myself the evidence of, you're not behind. You're in charge of this business. There's nobody's deadline that you have to meet other than your own. Come back into choice, come back into being in charge and your own power, and then go back to, is this really something to worry about? 9 times out of 10 for me, I'm just 5 years out of corporate. 9 times out of 10, I still have that habit of feeling behind, even though it's not actually true, right? So I've had to do my own mindset work around it. I can't just blame corporate. Moving out of corporate didn't solve it for me, right? I have some of my own stuff to do around that, and I had to look underneath the hood, right? So do some mindset work around it is the other thing you can do. Grab a coach, grab a healer. That's some of the work that I do. It's some of my favorite work to do. get to the root cause, get to a deeper layer of what's happening, understand where this might be playing out in other areas of your life, understand where this might have come from, family, society, old jobs, all of the above. And then the way that I like to work mindset stuff is to attack it from two different angles. One is to look at what you don't want, to look at the problem, right? Okay, for me, it was, I always feel behind at work. Okay, so let's look underneath that. What is it about feeling behind? Where did that come from? Why do I feel that way? Why have I allowed myself to sustain that habit, even if it's only in my mind? Like 9 times out of 10, I'm actually caught up, but because for so many years I felt behind, I'm just used to feeling behind. Doesn't mean I actually am. Okay. But where does that come from for me? I need to do some healing around that. I need to understand what's going on there. I need to dig deeper, right? So that's sort of like most of the time, a therapist, a coach, a healer. Some people do that by reading books and journaling, meditation, whatever it is that's your approach. So looking into the piece of like what the problem is, what the issue is, what you want less of, what you want to change from. And then also combining that mindset work with what do I want instead? How do I want to be? How do I want to feel? When I open up my calendar or when I look at my to-do list, excuse me, how do I really want to feel? Instead of the rushing feeling for me, instead of the, oh shit, I'm behind, right? How do I want to feel instead? I have everything under control. I am in charge of, and for me, a lot of it had to do with working for other people and not being in charge of my own deadlines. They would get moved on me. I was in many cases in my business, in my career, my former career, I was one of the last people responsible for something. So I was very dependent on other people doing things so that I could collect and create something from that. And so when they were late and the big deadline stayed, my timeline got crunched and I didn't have a lot of control over that. So that's where some of that comes from for me, right? So going into some of that and understanding, well, then how do I want to feel? I want to feel like I'm in charge of my own schedule. I want to feel like I know what's on my to-do list. And I also have every confidence in myself to know that when I can't get something done this week, it's perfectly fine. And I can move it to next week because I'm the owner of my own business and I can make my own decisions because I'm a grown-up. Right? So what do you want more of? And this is where things like, once you do the work and you dive in, this is where things like affirmations really kick in beautifully. I don't like to use affirmations too early in the process because then you create resistance. Your energetic field isn't ready to absorb and to utilize that way of being. But when you start to clear some of that, what you don't want and the problem, I'm too busy or I'm behind, I'm always behind was actually mine. Then what do you want more of? I'm in charge of my own schedule. I feel good when I look at my calendar. I know that I'm always on top of things. And if something is late, it's not a big deal because the truth is there's no emergencies in my business, right? These are the things that I would maybe tell myself. So then you add to what you want more of. So what do you want more of? What do you want less of? So I'm going to just summarize the mindset piece. So mindset work around survival mode. I'm trying to create a, one size fits all, which I don't like to do, but these are just basic things that you can do around mindset. Number one, be aware. That's hopefully what today's live helped you do, is to be aware and find awareness around where is survival mode energy playing out in your business. Number two, do some mindset work. Number three, take some action. And you may want to do 2 and 3, depending on what's going on with you. You may want to take action first and then reflect on that action. One of the things I like to recommend to people, I actually did this week with one of my clients. We adjusted her schedule. And she's now going to spend 2 weeks at this new schedule, and she's going to hold the boundary with herself around not making changes to that schedule, right? That we know the points where she's going to want to do something different than what she's set out and time blocked herself to do. And she's going to really hold herself to that schedule because for her, it's about giving herself time outside of her business, outside of her family, right? So I like to say, take some sort of new action, and then for whatever period of time is appropriate for you and for that situation, stick with that new action, play with how that feels, journal about it, see what comes up, reflect on it. And then that will teach you or show you what mindset work is left to do, right? So if you choose action first, that feels right to you, go ahead, change a system, change a process, change your calendar, change the way that you interact with your teammate, whatever it is, and then sit with it for a certain period of time and play with that in like almost an experimental way. Like, okay, how do I feel about this? What can I do better? What doesn't feel good? Does it not feel good because it's the right thing to do and I'm just not used to it? Or does it not feel good because it's just not quite the right action? Maybe I can tweak my action, right? So just reflecting on that. And then that will also show you what other mindset work is left, because maybe you've solved one piece, but maybe now there's still this other thing that doesn't feel good. So then you can dive into that. So that's the other piece, is taking that action, doing the mindset work. And then when you do the mindset work, approaching it really with the right support. That's something that I like to do if you're interested in having coaching, and then approaching that mindset work from both sides, from what you want less of and diving into finding out, understanding really what the problem actually is, and then noticing and finding a way to build in what you want more of. Okay, I am going to let it go at that. I wish you lots and lots and lots of thriving energy. I wish you, I hope you have a great week. I know a lot of people are gearing up for the end of the year, and I feel a lot of that sort of like survival mode energy wanting to kick in with a lot of my clients around like, but I have to do X by the end of the year, but I have to do Y by the end of the year, but I wanted this much money by the end of the year, I wanted these clients by the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. And I just want to like, this is actually very timely, and I didn't even realize it when I scheduled this live about a month ago, but this is really timely, I think, for a lot of people. So where even do you seasonally notice survival mode energy playing out, and how can you find a way to make adjustments so that at every other area, every aspect, every area of your business, all different levels, that you can be more and more and more in a space of thriving. I still have about one, I'm playing around with my schedule right now. I have about space for one more person to come do one-on-one coaching with me starting this year. Otherwise, I'm already booking out slots for next year. If you're interested, you don't have to be ready to start right away. But if you're interested in talking to me about how it might look to work together in a one-on-one coaching container, hop on a call with me. I'll put the link here in the comments. And I do also have some space for a couple of intensive sessions, which aren't for everyone. But there are certain business problems and certain business situations where I have space on my calendar for probably 2 people to jump into my intensive space. So if that's something that you're interested in as well, it's like a deep strategic planning session is probably the best way to put it. I have space for that as well, but I am booking those now through the end of the year. So hop in sooner rather than later, whether you want to have a free call or whether you want to book some one-on-one coaching. I look forward to it, and I'm just grateful for this group, grateful for this community. I hope you have a great week. Let me know if you're on the replay, how this resonated with you. Let me know where you're finding sneaky little spots of survival mode energy. Tag me in the comments and I'll come back and respond. Okay, have a great week, guys. Bye.